We have now on the stage with us Tom Grieve, who is a former state prosecutor and currently is a practicing attorney, but he's also a gun guy, and I like that. So, we can talk about all kinds of stuff. We can talk about guns. We can talk about the law. Well, you're here at the USCCA Expo. You worked with USCCA on some stuff.
Right.
You're putting on some seminars as well.
Yep.
So, Tom, what makes you tick?
Well, I as you mentioned, I used to do IPSC IDPAs. We were kind of talking about before going live. I was a gun guy first, and I didn't really try to get into that, so to speak, as an attorney, except that I just knew a lot of gun guys, and the gun guys know that most attorneys are not gun guys, right? When you get into law, you're making a couple turns politically. When you get into criminal defense, you're making about 10 more after that. And the result is that we're very much, at Grieve Law, at our firm in Wisconsin, we're one of the very few firms that, we're criminal defense, and we're the largest criminal defense firm in our state, but we also actually walk the walk, and we actually have people here who are dedicated concealed carriers and live the lifestyle. So I've been doing this long since before law school, back 2 or 3 lifetimes ago now, and still doing it right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, with respect to the law, you are an attorney,
right?
Criminal defense.
Right.
This is something I sometimes think about, right? So a lot of criminal defense attorneys, I mean, to speak frankly, a lot of times you're handling cases with bad guys. Guys that legitimately, are breaking the law, right? So, but do you also handle some cases with, I mean, that's probably, a little,
no,
as an attorney,
I get that question all the time.
Respect, you're
how do you live with yourself?
You're meant to represent
Let's just cut
everybody
right to
that
it.
walks through your door, right?
Yeah.
But I'm curious about what the kind of cases that you handle and what we can kind of take away from that.
Right. So a lot of it depends upon, frankly, how successful is the firm. And I mean that from a business side as well as from a law-driven results side, because we're very fortunate in our practice that we're a very successful firm across the board. And the result is that we get to pick and choose our clients. We deal with good people on a bad day. So we're not, generally speaking, really at all dealing with gangs or anything like that. We're dealing with dad had too much to drink, drove home. Mom had too much wine and hit dad because he got arrested and was in jail. Kid got pinched with some drugs at college. Something like that. That's really the meat and potatoes for us. And it will be for, realistically, any successful criminal defense firm, whether it's in Wisconsin, whether it's in Pennsylvania, or anywhere else. That's really drunk driving, drugs. That's the meat and potatoes of what makes a criminal defense practice tick. Now, the vast majority of criminal defense attorneys out there are going to be general practitioners. So they're handling dad's divorce, mom's new boyfriend's immigration case. They're dealing with landlord-tenant, car accidents, slipping. That's the athlete, if I'm going to compare attorneys to athletes now. That's the athlete who's doing, track, volleyball, baseball, soccer, hockey in the morning. In the afternoon, they're doing baseball, lacrosse, tennis, golf. And then over lunch, they're going to strap in some shoulder pads. They're going to try to be your criminal defense attorney. Doesn't work out that well. But that's what most of the market is. When I say most, in my state, and I hear this is pretty representative in many other states, that's probably 90 to 98% of the criminal defense market out there. There's really very few attorneys like us, let alone a whole firm of us, where this is all that we do. We do private bar criminal defense representing good people of a bad day is the way I always sum it up for people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I had a question about that. So, obviously you're talking about attorneys and firms, and they stick to their wheelhouse, right? Do you ever, you're going through your annual, bar update education, continuing education, and sit down with other attorneys, and they're like, man, I wouldn't touch the cases. Why do you even get involved in defending gun owners? That's such a sticky area. Why? I wouldn't touch that.
Well, I can one-up that for you. So, so attorneys, what Matt's referencing, for those of you who are not in the know, is that attorneys, doctors, and a handful of other professions, we have to do a certain number of credits every year to 2 years in order to maintain our credentialing. In order for me to continue to practice law, I have to get in 33 some odd credits, 3 of them, believe it or not, being ethics, right?
Yep.
And we've got to file those at the state bar and on and on and on. There are sometimes some firearms CLEs. Often I'm the one that's teaching them, or one of the other members of my firm is. Very oftentimes it's not. These are attorneys who are very much not gun people. And you would not believe, I'm glad you guys are sitting down, but you would not believe some of the things that happen of, look, not me, this is some other firms that I won't mention, but they'll say, look, I get it, it's guns. these people are crazy for believing in the Second Amendment and this and that. But look, some of them have money, so let's learn how to talk to them and this and that. The criminal defense community is probably the second or third most politically active community, and I don't think I have to tell you or your viewers which way that leans by and large. And by leans, I mean it falls that direction. Employment law, personal injury law, and criminal defense are three areas with a very strong reputation of, frankly, individuals who are predisposed to voting against pro-firearm politicians.
Right.
They're generally speaking voting very much in favor of gun control. And the result is that you're going to have a bunch of attorneys who probably have never handled a gun. We've had clients. I'll give you a quick real case that I had one point where it was a small case. It was a misdemeanor, but it was a very big case for a guy who was well-to-do, never been in trouble before in his life, and basically someone pulled a gun on him as part of a traffic incident. They were in another car, and they were both stopped at a stoplight, and this guy's just going off crazy. And he pulls out a gun, and my guy, everything about auditory exclusion, tunnel vision, time slowed, all that's real. And guys, I've had any number of cases where everybody reports virtually the exact same thing, all right? And he took off, he called the cops. Well, at any rate, so my guy winds up getting charged because my guy is not a bad guy. And he cooperated. He talked with law enforcement. They put him through 6 hours of interrogations. They had him tell his story about 20 different times. And just like if I asked you what to do for lunch or breakfast this morning, 20 different times in excruciating and exquisite detail, there's going to be small variances because our brains are not hard drives. They're brains, right? We're going to be giving slight differences. Well, our guy did slight differences. The guy who pulled the gun on him, however, had been through the system more than a few times. And he also called the cops. He knew how to play his cards right. Well, at any rate, that guy was very insistent that my client pulled a gun on him, not the other way around. And was very insistent about the fact that he saw my guy's thumb cock the hammer back. Me being a gun guy, and my client fired the other attorney. The other attorney was telling him, it's an attorney with a good reputation, but not a gun person. They looked over the case. They said, yeah, I think you're screwed. You should plead and go to jail, basically. And the guy said, no good, hired me. I was reading through the police reports. I saw this fact about cocking the hammer back, and immediately I'm checking the evidence to see, all right, well, what gun did he have? He had a striker-fired gun. So if you're a gun guy, immediately you're saying, well, okay, big hole right there, because striker-firing guns are not going to have hammers. So I was right then and there able to prove to the prosecutor, to the cop, without even dragging my client through the expense and the anxiety and everything else of going through a jury trial. I think about 6 weeks later, the prosecutor dropped the charge. So that's the difference between having a good attorney versus a good attorney who knows guns.
Yeah.
And that made all the difference for that client.
That's a really great story.
It's a real story. It's a real case.
Thank you for sharing that with us. So one question I was going to ask, because I think this is one that people want to know, is, well, if I ever have to hire an attorney, if I ever have to put one on retainer, if I'm in a self-defense situation, whatever it is, how do I pick a good attorney? How do I know who's a good attorney? And I think probably one good metric is, you kind of told us already, this is what your firm does.
Right.
That's cool. But what would be some other factors that you would say that would be, you're in Wisconsin, so obviously a listener or viewer in Florida is probably not going to hire you.
Right.
But what would you say would be other factors?
So you hit on a huge one, which is immediately just gauging what's their depth of practice, how far do they go, how long have they been doing this. And as Indiana Jones once remarked, it's not the years, it's the mileage, right? Because a lot of attorneys, you look on their websites, they're going to say, look, I've been doing criminal defense for 20, 25 years. And if you actually talk to them, or better yet, if your state has a very nice and easy accessible open record system, I can actually see and click through which cases they had in criminal defense, how many cases do they have. Well, do I want the firm where, yeah, the guy's been doing this for 25 years, he's been doing 5 cases per year for 25 years, and the majority of his practice has been divorce and all this other kind of stuff? Or do I want the firm who's, look, on the younger side? We're on the younger side. For those of you who can see that, hopefully I look like I'm on the younger side. But at the same time, this is all that our firm does. And our firm handles hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cases at any point in time.
Wow.
So it's a way higher mileage. So looking at the breadth of the practice. Now, that's not the only litmus test, because truly there are some fantastic attorneys that do handle multiple different areas of law. There's solo practitioners. A lot of people say, well, is a big firm better than a smaller firm? And I say, look, at the end of the day, did they get big because they get great results and they're client-driven? Or are they big because they're really good at marketing and they're really good at business? Because one of those is great, the other one may not be so great. Awards is another thing people point to. Most of the awards in the legal industry are crap. They're junk. I get daily emails from made-up companies, fly-by-night companies that have some P.O. box in Arkansas or New York or wherever else, saying, hey, congratulations, you just got selected to our top 5 attorneys on blah, blah, blah. Send us a check for $400 and we'll get your name on a list and send you a plaque to put up in your lobby. Right. It's junk. It's BS. So
bought awards.
Right. Yeah,
for.
very much.
Yeah.
So what I would say is, look, some of the awards really are valuable. Some of them you cannot buy. But unless you're in the legal industry, you're not going to know which ones those are. I know which ones those are, but as a shopper who's trying to discern and really make what could be maybe the second most important decision, possibly the first most important decision beyond who do you marry, right, in your whole life. So I say, look to see, as a general rule, look to see how many areas of law they practice, how many cases within that area of law they take. Ask them about their experiences within this. All right, well, when's the last time you took a case to trial? When's the last time your firm took a case to trial? Tell me about some of the awards. Tell me about what the process is that you do. And if they can't go into specifics, if they can't basically talk about how they break down and tear apart this engine that the prosecutor's case is going to be, that's going to be a big warning sign. And can they clearly communicate those facts? Because a strong attorney, above all else, should be a good communicator. They should be a good storyteller. And if they cannot get 2 words out stacked on top of each other, look, they may be great at drafting wills and paperwork. I don't know if that's the person I want standing up speaking to a judge, a prosecutor, and jury.
Yeah.